What's up, Junior Golf Blueprint fans? We're back with another USGA champion. This time, a U.S. amateur champion by the name of Stephen Fox. That's right. If you're a Nashville native, you know who this cat is. Phenomenal player. Played at UTC. Did a great job. Went out on tour. Played out there for a little while. And is now back home, living a day job like the rest of us. But either way, he's the 2012 U.S. Amateur Champion and did it in glorious fashion with a playoff victory. So, today's episode, we get to talk to what it's like to win another one of golf's majors, especially if you're back in the early days when it was the U.S. Am and the U.S. Open that were considered two of the majors. So, without further ado, let's get into the episode and listen to what Stephen Fox has to say about what it was like playing for one of golf's biggest titles and winning. Today on the show, I have a local legend. His name's Stephen Fox. He's also the 2012 U.S. Amateur Champion from Cherry Hills. He had a great career at UTC and played a good time out there chasing the ball around, making money on the tours. And today we're sharing his story on the show. So today, Stephen, thank you for joining us. And why don't we start out with, how did you get into golf?
Yeah, Matt, appreciate you having me on the show. I started at a young age. I really started when I was 2 years old in North Carolina. My dad took me to the range. Well, first started in the backyard of our house, just swinging a stick. What resembled somewhat of a golf swing. My dad then, we progressed to going to the driving range and started playing tournaments when I was 7.
Nice.
Won my first event when I was 7 years old. And heck, I've been playing forever now. I'm 30 now. So if you go from when I was 2, I've been playing for 28 years.
It's amazing when, because I picked up the game about the same time, 2-3 years old. I got like a little cut down 2-iron my grandfather gave me, right? And it was kind of
a tough start right there. Start with a 2-iron.
My grandfather wasn't right in the head, I'm sure about that one. He's like, it's funny because when you talk about how long you've been around a sport, right? And I'm 32, I'm barely older than you, right? And you say well, yeah, man, I've been in this game for almost 30 years. And they're like, well, you're 32. I'm like, I know, right? Exactly. You want to give a guy a little credit. That's it, right? What you said you won your first tournament at 7, which is obviously pretty cool notch on the belt at a young age. What was it about golf that really drove you to the sport?
I like competing, but when I was younger, you don't know about the competition. That comes, really high school, college, the competitive factor in you. When you're young, I think it's just being outside. I had my fair share of video games back then, but I loved being outside. And I think traveling, getting to go to hotels when you're so young, it's so much fun.
Right.
My dad or mom or dad or both would always take me to, to the tournaments. You're hanging out, you're going out to eat, you're going to play golf. It's a pretty good life you got right there.
No doubt. I mean, it is definitely, sports now are starting to get way, way more convoluted down the road of travel expenses and where you're going, especially in golf too. I mean, you could play tournaments, you can make it as expensive as you want. But the travel portion was always something fun for me too, but it was also kind of fun because my dad and I used to do a lot of the trips together, right? And it was time to spend with old man and hang out and, not have to, worry about being PC per se, right? For a couple of days with the old man. But what when you were going through the junior ranks and you were playing some of these tournaments and traveling, what are some of the memories that you have playing in these different events as a junior golfer? What were some of the ones that stand out to you?
So I played a lot of my junior golf was Texas and Florida. Obviously great states to be involved in junior golf. So I remember playing, and I want to say it was in either Waco, Texas, or it might have been an Oklahoma junior. I think it was called the Starburst Invitational. And I won it one year and they gave me a backpack full of Starburst. It was the greatest prize I could ever win. So long, we got an 8-hour drive home and I'm just eating Starburst. I don't know. Life is so much simpler when you're young, but I enjoyed all of my friendships are from the golf course. Every single one of them. Now I'm starting to get some real estate friends, but everything was golf. And I keep in touch. I played a lot with Patrick Reed in Texas. Yeah. We don't keep in touch much anymore, but in college we played a lot together and saw each other. Even when after the Yam, I saw him out there when I had the 10 starts or so on the PGA Tour.
Right.
Got to see him out there. Golf it's just a friendship. And like golfers are all friends.
Yeah, it's definitely a close-knit community, right? I mean, that's like the joke amongst us pros, right? I mean, I'll know I'm fired, or I'll find out I'm fired after somebody else does, right? I mean, they know before I do because the community is so small. And like when I left Legends to come here to Indian Hills, I mean, I don't think I even made it public on social media I was leaving, and there was like 4 phone calls to like see who think it's filling my spot at Legends. And I was like, damn, sharks. But it is interesting the friendships that you build up with and how that, can become more as you get older, right? The people you meet, the opportunities that they provide and stuff like that. But like you said, as a kid, you don't really realize that necessarily at a kid's age, right? You're just kind of like duking it out with your buddies and you're building that friendship without really knowing what the value of that friendship will be later on. And when you're coming up and you're playing in your high school stuff and your middle school stuff, and you're starting to see the light that there's maybe a little bit more to what Steven can do, right? What was like the moment when you kind of went, I could play college ball, I could maybe even play pro ball?
When I figured out I could play pro was after the AM. I remember talking with Steven Yeager, who was a teammate of mine at UTC. Prior to the AM, was like, hey, I don't know if I really want to play golf. Whether I had the talent or just didn't want to. After the AM happened, it was like, probably should give it a shot.
Just won a national championship. Maybe should go play a little bit just to honor the sport.
You get so much stuff thrown your way after the USA once you win. So that's really got me to go to the professional route.
Yeah.
The college route. It was probably, I started my high school career in Tennessee. So I kind of called Nashville, where I grew up, kind of home. I've been here for 17 years now. So Nashville's really home.
Right.
I've probably my junior year is really where I started seeing the college stuff. I played a lot of the state AMs, the state juniors, the match play. That was probably where I started seeing, hey, I can go play college. And then you start receiving the letters. And my 3 schools were Memphis, UTC, and UCF, Central Florida. Mm-hmm. I toured Central Florida. I went to Memphis, got to meet Calipari when he was at Memphis. Great visit. Coach Robbins, great guy. For some reason, when I went to Chattanooga, loved the team, had a great visit. On the way home, called Coach June. I said, here's my verbal commitment. Right. An hour after I left, I was like, this is it. Talked to my dad. He's like, if you like it, I'm good. And so, and I'm happy, things happen for a reason. You go to another
right.
school, do I win the USM? Probably not. Who knows?
Right.
Everything happens for a reason, but I was super happy that I went to UTC.
Yeah. And you won the state junior, correct? Like in 08, mm-hmm. Is that right? And as funny when I was doing my little homework for the show, which is correct, people. I do homework sometimes. I was looking it up, and that was in Memphis, right? At Colonial or down there in Cordova.
Yeah. And I think it was the easier of the 2 courses, but I can't remember which one.
So what was funny about that is I was looking at it, and I was in Memphis that same time working at Southwind. That same 2008. It was my first internship at Mississippi State. And I was like, dang, we were in the same part of town, didn't even know each other. And here we are 13 years later chatting on the podcast. So I thought that was kind of a neat little stat. But that golf course out there is no joke. Both of them, by the way, for especially to go out and shoot a few rounds under par like you did. That's not an easy golf course.
No, I think that was kind of like the first big tournament I won too. And that's really what got Coach June to contact me at UTC. I think I shot 68, 68, 68, I think. And my dad actually, and the reason I know it, my dad framed it, and it's in my room, when I lived at home. But,
right.
And that's why I remember that was kind of like my first big win, as a junior amateur.
What do you remember what that feeling was like when you, like, I don't know if that was like, obviously you had multiple wins leading up to that point, but like, the big one, right? Was there like a weight that lifted off your shoulder? Was it kind of like obviously it helped your recruiting? Did it help make you feel a little more at ease that you're eligible to go college bound?
No, and your feelings and your nerves are different at high school, college, and professional. I think you really don't have your nerves in high school. You're just
Mhm.
going to play, you're having fun. Who really cares if you hit a bad shot?
Right.
Once you get on the professional level and the better you play, the bigger your check, your nerves get a little increased.
Right.
And it's just a different feeling. And I think, when you win at the junior level, it's great. When you win at a professional level, it seems 10 times more because one, it's your job. You've
Right.
got a lot more people. You've got to, like, for me, have my family. I think it means more in the professional realms, I guess.
Right.
It's just, and that's like, if you can win at the professional level, that's a weight off your shoulders. I don't think at the junior level it necessarily is.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that too, because I've talked to so many kids, and a lot. I mean, I've had a kid win the junior am. I've had a lot of kids almost do it, and a lot of kids want to do it. And I'll say to them is like, well, who won it last year? And they'll sit there and go, oh. And I'm like, so you mean to tell me this tournament means so much to you that you have no idea the history of the tournament, right? And it's like when the light bulb kind of goes off. And it was really impactful when my kid won it. And like the next year, I'm asking these kids these questions. And I was like, well, the kid that just walked out of the bay was the kid that won it last year, by the way. Like you just saw him.
That's funny. So when I was at the AM, I played Chris Williams, who was the number one amateur at the time, in the quarterfinals. Yeah, I want to say it was the quarters. And our SID at UTC called, and right after the round of 32 match, and he's like, "Hey, congrats. What do you think it's going to be like tomorrow going up against the number one amateur?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? I don't even know." I was like, "Who's that?" and honestly, I think it was great, and I think that's what got me to be successful and eventually win. But I was like, I had no idea who I was playing. Like, Spieth and Justin Thomas, but
Right.
I don't know. I was like, who's Chris Williams from Washington? I was like, I don't know. I'm gonna go play him, see what happens.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good attitude too. I mean, obviously match play is different, very different than stroke play, right? And you almost have to always assume they're going to make the next shot. You can't assume that, the guy's going to blow it for you to win it, right? That doesn't happen. And then obviously you guys went to a playoff and you made a stand-up putt to win the thing at the end of the day. And when you look back at your USAM win, what were some of the things that fell in line for you that led you to earning that title?
Whew. I took lessons from Brian Lackey for close to 8 years. And he was my coach when I won the AM. I owe a lot to him. My dad, I don't know. I think a lot of it is just how I saw the game. I didn't put a lot of pressure on myself. I was there, wasn't a, big time name. I wasn't the Spieth or even Hideki was up there.
Right.
So I wasn't a big name, and I was kind of under the radar, just like, I'm just sliding by, getting through one match after another. It was like, I had no pressure on myself. I wasn't there to lose it. It was just like, hey, I can win, great, or if I lose, I'm supposed to.
Right.
And so I didn't have the pressure on me to succeed. I was just, and that's how I kind of always been.
And I think I saw online that you were like one of the higher seeds to ever win it. Is that correct?
63rd seed.
Just snaking in there, dude. You are what would ruin a March Madness bracket. Let's just say that.
Yes, 100%. I'm gonna make a lot of people money though. I'm gonna make some people some money.
Them odds right there, man. Them odds. And what was like the U.S. Amateur experience like? I mean, it's a long road to get there, right? There's multiple qualifiers, not only to get to there, but then to get into the part that actually matters, the match play. Part. I mean, it's got to be draining just to get there.
So I mean, I did the qualifying at Willow Creek in Knoxville.
Right.
I think I shot 74 the first round and with a shank. And I shanked it on a good hole where there was an open fairway to the right. And then I think I shot 64 in the second round. Went from like last place to like maybe there might have been 4 spots, and I claimed the 3rd spot. So I get in.
Wow.
And then, you have 312 players up at the AM with only 64 going to match play. There was a 17 for 14 playoff. Just to get into the match play.
That's crazy.
And so you come back, and I didn't think this was me being a pessimist at the time, but I didn't think I was even going to have a chance. I was telling my dad, I was like, let's book flights. Like, we're going home. We're not playing. But got through the playoff on the fourth playoff hole, making par.
Mm-hmm.
But I also, so on the first playoff hole, we go off on 10, hit a good drop, but the rough is up like 6 inches. My ball kind of settled up against the rough. I was maybe 100 yards from the green. If I make par, I get through, no problem.
Right.
I maybe hit the ball 50 yards. Like, I didn't make contact. Just because there's so much rough behind. I didn't make contact with the golf ball.
So you're not Bryson, is what you're saying.
So I make bogey, and I was like, all right, here we go. But ended up parring the next 2 holes, and it was like 3 for 4 on the last, and made par. Made about a 10-footer and get the 63rd stage. So it's just, it is a grind to make it all the way. But then once you're in match play, I mean, it's anybody's game.
Yeah. And I feel like too, with like the match play, you know, to like finally like switch your brain from stroke to match play is tough. And that's and it was funny. I was talking to one of my friends who lives overseas in Scotland, and she was talking about the difference in how they play matches growing up versus how we play growing up and all the different formats. And match play is one that we're like here in the States, not notorious to play. Yeah. It's really only in the amateur. You see it in Walker Cup, Ryder Cup, and all the other stuff. You don't really see it in high school matches. So, you know, what was your experience level playing a match play, and did your mindset kind of shift from trying to stroke play into, you know, playing the match play matches?
It can. I mean, obviously stroke play, you make an 8, it hurts. You make an 8 in match play, who cares? You know, it's only one, it's 1 hole lost. Right. I remember playing Ryan Thornton. Do you remember Ryan? He played at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
We played the match play at Chattanooga Country Club. And this was in college, maybe like 2000. This might have been actually 2013. No, 2011.
Okay.
And we're playing, and I think it's hole 6. I think I made an 8 and Ryan made a 9, and I actually won the hole. See, I'm getting off topic, but it's match play, and we are laughing our ass off going down the fairway. Like, how did this even happen? And Coach June's watching. He's like shaking his head. He's like, what are these 2 guys doing?
What is this?
But I mean, it's match play, and like anything can happen. But my thing with match play was never being out of the hole. Right. You know, at least don't ever give it up. Don't ever give 1 hole away. Just always be in it. And I think I pissed a lot of players off from being like, I'm 40 yards short of the green, I'll get up and down for par. Where they have like 10 feet for birdie, and they're like, hey, I'm going to win this hole.
Yeah.
No, like I'll hit it to a foot and they'll miss. And
not a done deal.
And I did that a lot. I'm not a ball striker. My short game always like, oh, he's dead, he's going to make bogey. He's like, oh no, he just chipped in. You know, and that's just a big swing in match play. Yes. I think I did that quite a bit at the end.
Well, and that kind of controls the mojo of the match. You know what I mean? Like if it because there's a lot of emotions, especially at that stage, right? And like you say, like if a guy, you know, stiffs one by the flag stick, and then you look like you're out of position, and all of a sudden you sling a wedge in there tight or hole it, right? Now his mentality just went from, I'm gonna lock this up, to, whoa, wait a second.
Yeah. It's like a 2-hole swing, you know, go from, you know, 1 up to 1 down. And you're like, how did this even happen?
And I think that's where, you know, control, like, you know, you see it a lot, like when you watch Ryder Cup and President's Cup, you can see the mojo changing, right? Like when Ryder Cup, like when the Europeans are running away with it, you can just see the United States team players just like lowering down, like they got nothing left in the tank. But then it's like 1 shot, and all of a sudden, like, oh, wait a second, I'm feeling something. You know what I mean? And that's what it could take, man. It could just take 1 chip in, and next thing you know, you're off to the races.
Exactly.
It would. And obviously I'm cheating because I listened to you and Virgil talk a little bit, but would you say like your ability to have a good wedge game was what made you have a great career through college and be able to play at the professional circuit?
Yeah. It wasn't me bombing the golf ball off the tee. It was all wedges. And Brian Lackey will tell you, and it's happened every lesson, if I could swing a driver like I did a wedge, my career would have been different, but it changed. So if I was inside 120 yards, really freaking good.
Right.
Outside of that, got a little squirrely, but yeah, even short game, and talked to Mark June at UTC, I didn't care to miss greens. And he's like, fire at the flag. I don't care if you short side yourself, you're going to get up and down. And that was my mentality.
Right. It can
at
be
the
more aggressive.
professional level, it gets a little different because courses get tougher, conditions get firmer. But at the college level, junior golf level, I'd fire at anything. If I short side myself, it's like, I'll figure it out. I'll get up and down.
So how did you? Because there's not enough kids that put value in that right now. Like like they're all worried about how far they hit it. That's just being 13, right? That's just part of the deal. How did you get your wedge game to be that good? I mean, obviously time and effort, stuff like that. But
Yeah.
were there like, are you just more creative? Are there specific types of games you like to play? You know, what was your strategy there?
I mean, I really think I'm blessed with good hands. That's one thing that talent and God gave me was good hands around the green. I do practice it a lot. I can sit on a range and hit wedges for hours and hours and hours. I can hit a 4-iron on the range for about 20 seconds and I'm over it. I don't know what it is, but even short game was always in college. I would play 21, chipping game, and
Yep.
play countless hours of 21. And I just enjoyed it. I have that creativity mind where, I like to spin it off slopes, depending on courses. Like the honors course is a great course for being creative around those greens.
Yep.
And I think that's just what made me good, was practicing all that, but just a God-given talent with good hands, soft hands.
Yeah, and that, that's part of the element that it's tough to like admit sometimes, is like there are portions that like you just can't train. Like it's like you're just, hey, congratulations, you're really streaking strong, or you got good hands, or and genetics is something that I've always I'll never have a basketball career. I'm 5'10" and don't have the wingspan for it. It ain't happening, right? But at the same time, like golf is a sport where you have Rory McIlroy listed at like 5'9", which I'm still questioning, and then you have your Tony Finau who's 6'4", and they both can play, right? And so that's the part that drew me to golf, was that it didn't matter how you were built. You can find a strength within the game that can let you become who you are and what defines you.
Yeah.
And then go from there. And I think, everybody's got to find that niche, right? And you had obviously identifying that wedging is your strong suit is obviously, what allowed you to have all those opportunities, I think, right?
Yeah.
And so it's fun, and at the same time, it's like you can't let that part of your game go, though, right? So when you're out there in getting yourself ready to go play in professional circuits, how, if at all, did your practice change to get your game ready to go play for checks?
I had to change a lot of things, and I've tried getting my ball striking better. But mainly I stuck to my strengths. I had to, because if I didn't, I can turn a 75 into a 72 from having a good short game, and a 72 into a 68. And that's what I was really good at. And I would get down and be like, college coach would be like, how did you shoot 68 today? You hit 7 greens. It's like, well, got up and down every time. And then I made a few putts when I did hit a green. And that was kind of like, and that was my thing. And you just have to, whatever your strengths are, you just have to make sure they stay there.
Right.
You can't lose what you're really good at.
Yeah. And that's a great thing for kids to hear, because it's hard, because you want to be great at everything, right? And that's kind of what all these stats, we keep hearing about stats, right? And parents will beat kids to death with stats. Well, you only hit 6 fairways. Well, yeah, but like 7 of the other ones were like in the rough. I wasn't like out of bounds 7 times in a row. Like, what's the deal? You know what I mean? It's like you got to be careful with your statistics. But after you win the 2012 USAM, everybody knows you get the invite to the golden ticket. You get to go to God's place of golf, Augusta National. Man, what was that like when you get the letter and you see that letterhead, Augusta National? Like, what is that? What was that like?
Well, it's framed now in my house. It is probably the best piece of mail I've ever got. It is the best piece of mail I've ever got. That is, Augusta is a special place. I kind of tiptoe around. I've got so many stories from Augusta National, and you'll laugh. But so I got to play with the Saturday before the Masters, played with Phil Mickelson, Keegan Bradley, and Jason Duffner.
Nice.
Started the week out pretty good.
Yeah.
So I was talking to Steve Lloyd at the time, who's a big time agent. But he kind of set it up to go play. And Phil, I don't see any of them all morning. Phil comes up to me on the first tee. It's like, hey, whatever we play for today, we win, you take half of it, lose, I'll cover you. So I look at my dad, so I can have one guess. So my dad's there. Obviously, he went to the bank because he knows we're going to play for money. And I just look at him. I was like, we're good, Pops. And so I go birdie the first.
Nice.
Yeah. And so Bubba's caddy, his nickname was Pepsi. And so he came up, he's like, that was like the greatest start you could possibly have to this game. And I'm hitting, like, they're hitting wedges and I'm back there like hitting 5 iron. But so I covered Phil on like the front 9 and go to the back. So we ended up playing, the total amount was $1,500, which for them, it's nothing. For me, it was like,
that's a check.
Big time. Yeah. And so we go, we're like maybe 1 up going to 15. I hole out from the greenside bunker for eagle.
Holy cow.
Phil's like jumping up and down. Keegan, Duffner didn't really say but maybe 5 words all day.
Sure.
Keegan, right. And Keegan is pissed off beyond pissed off. It's like, when you just pick the ball out of the hole, you just like roll it to the guy because you're so mad. Like it was just like a slow roll to me. He's like, I'm not even going to say good shot. So we ended up winning. And so Phil, we go out to the car or go to the parking lot. And so Phil's going to pay me instead of getting it from Keegan and everything. So Phil pulls out like a wad of cash and pays me $750. He goes, hey, this is word for word. He says, hey, keep this on the down low. Because I'm still in college.
Yeah.
So I keep this on the down low. If the NCAA finds out, call me. I'll have my lawyers take care of it. And I said, well, 1, that's awesome. 2, I'm telling everybody. I don't really care. I was like, this is an awesome story.
Take my scholarship. It doesn't even matter.
This is the coolest story ever. But no, I mean, the Honors is just a super special place. And so when I was at Augusta, this might have been, so my parents had a house maybe a few miles away, and this might have been Wednesday night. And it's probably, I've got an afternoon tea time on Wednesday. I think. I get back to Augusta at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I'm in flip-flops, gym shorts, and a t-shirt. And I'm like, it's 11 o'clock at night. Who's going to be here? I'll walk in the clubhouse. I'm staying in the Crow's Nest. Walk in the clubhouse. Jeff Knox greets me. I'm like, hey, Jeff. He goes, Steven, what the hell are you doing? I was like, the hell are you guys doing? It's 11 p.m. They were finishing like a member dinner, and all of them, they had their green jackets on. And I'm like, oh, shit. And he's like, Steven, go upstairs real quick. I said, fine by me. I go run up, but I was like, oh, crap. I just walked into Augusta in flip-flops and some gym shorts.
Not an impression to make.
Yeah, not the best one.
What? So, like I've been there once just to watch, right? And you walk out there, it is amazing how close 1T, 10T, 9 and 18 green are in this little pocket postage stamp size area, right? What was the energy level like when you walked up to the first tee on Thursday, and like what's going through your head?
Well, so go to the range warming up on Thursday. I'm hitting balls. Ben Rickett, who was our assistant at UTC, is caddying for me. And we're on the range hitting. The tournament range, there's 100 spots people can hit at. Like, it's massive. Tiger, I think, is playing in front of me, I believe, that day, and hits right behind me. I mean, there's open spaces everywhere, and he just drops his bag of balls right behind me. And I don't want to hit balls. Like, I just want to like grab a seat and just like, let's just watch him hit balls. It's like, Ben, how am I supposed to warm up now? Like, you hear him hit an 8-iron, you hear me hit an 8-iron. It's a little different. And so we go back. I'm putting. So there's a little putting green behind 1 and 10T.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm putting. I feel good. I'm all good. walk into the tee. My dad's there, so you can have one person inside the ropes. My dad's there, just gives me a big hug, and I was like, I lost it. And I was like, it's not what I needed right before I hit this first golf shot. And so I get a little teary-eyed. And I'm like, all right, now let's get our stuff together.
Yep.
So I'm back to being good. I'm on the first tee. Put the tee in the ground. I'm good. Set up over it. Knee started shaking. And I was like, oh boy, there's the nerves. Hit it. I hit it on to 9, almost to 9 fairway.
Oh, wow.
So just pretty much a hook off the first, punch out, make like a fit, so close to making double on the first, but end up making like a 10, 12 footer for par.
Nice.
I was like, oh, that's the best start I could have had.
Right.
And then I hook it on 2 again in the hazard. But I mean, I played all right the first day. The second day was not that great, but the first day, you know, it was good. I think I was even through 11 holes maybe.
Right.
Didn't finish great, but it's the overall experience. It didn't matter if I shot 140 the first day or 65. I mean, It was a good experience no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, right, it's like almost more like of a celebration tournament, right? To celebrate your win at the US Am and honestly just get the experience of being there and rub that off your back. So when you go pro, right, the idea would be like you make it when you're trying to make money, you've kind of already got that fluttery feeling off of you. When you were there, obviously you got the chance to play with like the likes of Phil, have great stories with Keegan. What were some of the things that when you were playing with these guys and kind of more specifically in the tournament, what were you noticing that they were doing that you were like kind of going, I need to learn that?
I think it's how they get around a golf course. I mean, if you watch Phil, he doesn't have a yardage book at all. He's got basically a small notebook that he has notes in from when he played his first Masters, you know, after he won the Am. So he's got little notes in there, and that's how he gets around. He's like, Steven. So he would take me around. Yeah. Steven, you can't hit it here. When the pin's here, do not be over here. And he just understands more, and they can control it a little bit, you know, better, you know, from 180 yards out. He's like, all right, if I know I'm going to miss, this is where I'm going to miss. And then they get up and down 9 times out of 10.
Right.
I think just watching their ball flight, it's different. It really is. I played with Henrik Stenson at the British. Best ball striker I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a different sound. It's just, you watch the ball and I'm like, I'm a playing competitor, but I'm like, I'm in awe watching him hit that 3-wood. It's just, and the ball doesn't move. Seriously, it is, you know, it moves 6 inches. It's impressive.
That's what I tell a lot of kids. Like, you know, I have TrackMan that we coach with, right? And I put the curve number up, and you see that on Top Tracer now on the TV, which is a newer feature the last few years. I'm like, watch them hit a 9-iron, and then tell me how many feet of curve it has. And they're like, 3. I'm like, yeah, 3 feet of curve. Now, you know why the camera sits off to the side? Is because you wouldn't see the back end of the tracer. And so, you know, I think, you know, for me, every time I've been around like tour player, like, you know, I was at Legends, so I saw Brant and I saw Ben, you know, hitting shots, and you're right. There's a sound to it, right? But at the same time, it's like their ability to put that ball on the same starting line repeatedly is what's so impressive. Their ability to control that face. Yeah, the ability to control the face at impact is bar none better than anybody. And that's why they're playing professionally, right? And you know, I was talking to Dawson Armstrong here not long ago, and he was kind of talking about
he's a terrible person.
I agreed. Just kidding. Yeah, he was talking about a Sarasota thing, right? And
I've got a really funny Dawson story. I've got to interrupt. So Dawson texted me like 2 days ago, and he just finished runner-up, you know, where they're just played great. Texted me like 2-3 days ago. He's like, hey, do you want to get involved in this big money game? You know, they have an off week. He's like, you want to get invited? I sent back. I was like, Dawson, I don't play golf anymore. He's like, that's right. My bad. So I'll take that as a no.
Yeah. By the way, I would be boat raced. So no.
Yeah. It's like, how many shots do I get? No, but Dawson's a great guy. I love him.
Yeah, he was a great. I mean, his episode dropped right before yours, and so he was telling about how like at Sarasota, like the fairways are so big, it's just like just hitting the center of the face. right? You just got to put it in the center of the face and you're fine. And I think, like part of me as a coach, right? And I'm trying to work with kids is like, at a younger age, you don't have to be super specific, right? You don't have to have minutia details like what Phil was showing you about pin here, don't be here, or be here when the pin's here, whatever. As you get better, those tiny, tiny little things is the difference between you making the cut, winning the tournament, keeping your card, getting your card, and so, when you went from college to pro, there's also the aspect of like in college you had a coach, here's your workout, here's your schedule, here's when you're qualifying, here's when we're traveling, and then now you go play professional golf, right? And you have to do that on your own, right? So what was like your biggest learning curve going from college to professional golf? What was that like?
It's tough. You give a 22-year-old 12 hours in a day. It's really tough to put a schedule together. But,
right.
I listened to Keith Mitchell's podcast on Subpar with Colt Knost the other day. And he put it good on why Georgia was really good. He's like, look, our coach, they let us do what we want. It was up to us to set that schedule in college, where most colleges is, hey, coaches give you that routine and then you set your own when you get out. Georgia said, hey, and why they have so many players on tours, they have that schedule, or they were forced to do their own schedule in college. And when they got out, there was nothing new. Right. It's like, I've already done this for 4 or 5 years. And so they had to step up on everybody already. And I think you've got to have that schedule. It's difficult. You have more free time playing golf professionally. You don't have a job that's 8 to 5. Right. And you know where you have to be. You've got to set that schedule, and you've got to stick to it.
Right. What were some of your favorite places to play while you were, buttoning around chasing that white golf ball?
Sure. I mean, Augusta's up there.
Sure.
I played, so where the tour is this week, Concession, I've played that in a match play event in college. Unbelievable track. Played Calumet Pines down there. I've played so many. I'm a member at the Honors Course in Chattanooga. Yeah. It doesn't get much better. Hospitality-wise, golf-wise.
It's pretty solid.
Membership-wise. And that's one thing. They offered me an honorary membership when I was just after the AM. So I was in college.
Right.
Amazing. It was unreal that they would offer that to me. And I didn't appreciate it as much back then. Because I was young, immature, didn't understand it as much. Now, it is one of the greatest things that have happened since the AM, is having that. As long as I don't mess it up, hopefully I don't get kicked out. But it is unbelievable. I love being there. The membership is phenomenal. Henrik Simonson is awesome, phenomenal professional. Love chatting with them. It's a great atmosphere. So that's probably one of my favorites. I've been out to the Golf Club of Tennessee a bunch. Great atmosphere, totally different than the Honors, but phenomenal track. And I'm excited for them to build that other 18 out there. But no, I tell you, so I played the U.S. Open at Marion. Mm-hmm. Great track.
Yep.
And
that's back in my backyard. I grew up in that side of Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So when I was up there, I played the World Am in Turkey. And our captain at the time, Jim Vernon, was like, hey, when you're at Marion, let's and go over to Pine Valley.
Yeah.
This is immature Steven being an idiot, Steven. I'm like, hey, I'm here for the Open. Like, I'm just going to hang out here and prepare for the Open. And didn't take him up on the Pine Valley offer. And I was like, Steven, like, why? Let's go back 8 years. We need to do something different.
Pine Valley is one of those like bucket list courses. Like, it's like Augusta, Pine Valley. If you knock those two off, you've knocked off the best two you can play in the States for sure.
Yeah. I've played Muirfield over in Scotland. Phenomenal track.
Oh yeah.
Enjoyed over there. So I've played a lot, and it's tough to say what my favorite is, but I don't know. I've been fortunate to play a lot of good golf courses.
A lot of good tracks. What part of part of playing professional golf, I think a lot of kids, and not to be pessimistic about it, right? But a lot of kids look at it as like this dream job, right? This is going to be the most glorious thing I ever get a chance to do in my life, right? And there's obviously a lot of things that make it a struggle too, like i.e. one, you're on the road, what, 25, 30 weeks of the year, like
At least.
away from family, right? Yeah. If you're lucky, it's only 25 or 30 weeks if you're good enough to like play that number of events. But there's obviously different levels to different tours, right? Latin America, which I know you spent a little time on, and then there's the McKenzie, and then there's Korn Ferry, and then there's PGA, and you kind of work your way through the ranks and get yourself through there. When you're traveling in these foreign countries as a 20 whatever something year old, right? Were there times where you're just like, man, I'm flat out homesick, bro. Like I need to go home.
I mean, we would, in Latin America, 2015, we would go 4 weeks in a row. I was single, didn't even have a girlfriend or anything. And that was tough. And I'm like, I just want to get home to America.
Yeah.
I need Chick-fil-A.
I want a cheeseburger. I want a Coke.
I want to start speaking English again. It's as good as South America was. I had a phenomenal time. Some of my great friends I met from down there. Got to travel the world. It's as good as it was. It's still so tough. And now I think what got me really to stop is I've been married for just over 2 years now. We have a 2-year-old.
Right.
I didn't want to be away from him, for more than a week. It's tough. I go to work for 8 hours a day, and I come home. I'm like, I miss Mason, miss my wife. I was like, I don't like I couldn't do 25 weeks a year, and it was like it was going to be a 3-year thing to go from, all right, 1 more year on South America. I didn't want to be 30 years old down in South America. I didn't. And then I'd have to get to Korn Ferry, and then I'd have to get the tour. And I was like, even when I get there, I was like, all right, I don't like Korn Ferry. I didn't want to be away 30 weeks a year, and I missed so much with my family. So I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, I feel like 30 is kind of like that magic number for a lot of guys. Like it's kind of like that barrier to like, all right, we're like sit down, real talk. Like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? And when I like for me, I obviously never have the game to even think about playing, but people have asked why I didn't, and I'm like, well, one, I know exactly what my financial situation would be at 30 if I tried to play. It'd be broke would be up here, and then it'd be me right below that. And I think that you made a great point. It's the time away from family is probably even the hardest. Like obviously the monetary stuff's a big part of whether you can keep going or not. But
yeah,
the missing the first steps, the first words, the being around when they pick up a golf club at 2, maybe like you were, right? And that's where I think a lot of guys kind of like go, okay, I need to have like a life talk and see where we're going here. And then obviously, apparently, we have a pandemic now, and that obviously forces the hand a little bit even harder, right? So did that kind of, I know you just announced that you're hanging it up from a professional standpoint, but did that in any way kind of affect your decision-making as well?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. You can't play professional golf until you get to the PGA Tour. It's tough to do it on your own dime. It's either family money or you got to go out and raise it.
Mm-hmm. And
it's tough to keep raising $100,000 every year. Eventually you run out of people to ask for money. So I mean, and I don't want to do that. I'm 30 years old. I was like, I don't want to go out and, ask people to help. I mean, I'm super blessed and thankful for the people that have helped me in my career. I played for, almost 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
In my eyes, that's a phenomenal career. I won 4 professional events. But I didn't want to keep going out asking for money. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to support my family on my own dime. It's not asking people,
Right.
And so that it definitely plays a factor.
You raise a good point. And when it comes to like the financials and playing the game, like Latin America, it's tough. Like if you don't win, it's not exactly the most paycheck driven tour. How like if a kid's thinking about coming out of college, thinking about trying to do this professionally, and the parents that have a kid that maybe for some reason already think their kid can do it at 15 or whatever, but either way, there's not enough talk about how how to raise those kind of dollars, like what kind of suggestions do you have for kids out there, like expectations? What's that journey like to just get funding?
You can't do it cheap. You really can't. If you're going to invest in yourself, and this is, if I could go back to right after the AM, it would have been, all right, not necessarily a nutritionist, because I enjoy milkshakes and cheeseburgers too much, but yeah,
Totally.
I would hire a personal trainer, and I'd be with them, at least 3-4 days a week. And whatever that cost was, you have to do it. Swing coach, it's like, hey, it's tough to go fly out to your swing coach because it's going to cost airfare and a few hours with them. It's, a $2,500 trip. You've got to do it. If you want to get to that next level,
right,
you've got to do it. So if I could go back, I would have done it that way. And I was fortunate where people, invested in me, and I should have done it instead of being cheap and saying, I just want this money to last as long as I can. It's like, hey, let's invest right now, all of it.
Right.
And that's what I needed to do, and I didn't. And so if I could go back, I would do it that way. But you've got to stick to a plan. And you see Rory, you see Brooks Koepka, they're in the gym. That's what it's becoming. You've got to invest in yourself. You've got to do it 4 or 5 days a week. You got to be in the gym.
Right.
And that might be 6 a.m. You've got to get up at 6 a.m., put in 2 hours of work,
do it,
go hit balls, do whatever you have to do, but you can't half-ass it, I guess.
Yep. Well, and people think that the gym time is, Rory and Brooks's, efforts to hit the ball farther, right? They've already got that figured out, right? At this point, the heavy lifting or whatever is coming for that a little bit, but at the end of it, really what they're trying to do is extend their career, right? Make playing 4 weeks in a row, which is probably like 25 rounds of golf,
right,
in 28 days, not hurt. Because guess what? If you're hurt, you ain't making a check. You can't get it done. And so that's where the gym facet, believe me, I'm trying to push as many kids into working out as often as I can at a young age. And I know Mike Wilson, who's been around town coaching a lot of the Corn Ferry guys. I don't know if you've ever bumped into him at all in your days. He was at MTSU with Whit for a little while. Now he's up at Trevecca, and he works out with a lot of kids that, he works out with a bunch of my kids, but then like Jack Morris, who won the Junior Am last year.
Okay.
And, with his time in college, he talks about how he gets some of these 18, 19-year-olds that show up and they can't even do a simple like squat, like a functional squat where they don't look like they're about to like put their nose into the concrete or something. Right. And he looks at me and go like, you've already missed the window. Like you should learn how to do this when you were 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, so that we can talk about how to do it a little better and lift a little heavier. I'm having to teach you
You're
how
behind the 8 ball.
Yeah. I'm teaching you how to just do the motion. And it's sad. And obviously some kids are a little more gifted in than others. Right. But, I think it's funny to me because I have always had the opinion of I can't know everything. Right. So that's why I recruited Mike. I got another guy here in town, Jordan. I use Rob Bell and his associates with Will Drum, right, for sports psychology. I'm like, look, I know enough to be dangerous in those subjects. I can look at you and tell you like, there's something wrong with your hip. Go get looked at. Right. But I'm not going to write a prescription for you. And but like people will not spend the money to physical train and they want to spend it on me in lessons. And I have to sit there and tell them like, I can't make you better because you are so limited in that area. Like you have to fix that first so that you can do what I'm asking you to do. It's a tough 100%. Conversation, and I think that's where, like you were saying there, like investing early, right? Like, if a parent listening for their kid, right, if you're waffling on spending, a couple extra bucks, and they know this from my standpoint, I would rather you go spend that couple extra bucks training, learning how to get better in that area, right, where I'm not the expert, and use my experts. And if you don't like my experts, there's other experts, you know what I mean? And invest yourself what you actually need to get better. And I think that's where we have a lot of hard conversations as, junior golfers, college players, professional players, is that have that hard talk of like, I need to get better here. I may not like this, but this is what has to happen.
Yeah.
So when you look back, like you said, you've already given a great couple of nuggets for younger Steven, right? But when you look back and, and now you're 30, and you look back at the young teenage Stephen Fox and knowing what you know now, having a state junior am win, a U.S. amateur win, a 8-year professional career, obviously you look back at that and you feel very accomplished. But if you had to go back to 12, 13-year-old Steven and say, hey, look, you will do great things, but here's some things that you should do right now to be more successful, what would you tell yourself?
So there's a good quote, and then I've told a bunch of kids who I teach on Tuesdays and Thursdays is, don't practice till you get it right. Practice till you can't get it wrong. It's, and I practice the wrong way. It's like, oh, I hit like 3 good ones, I'm good. It's like, no, you've got to hit 15 that look identical. That was my thing. I don't want to use the term half-ass because I didn't half-ass anything, but I could have worked harder and smarter. Right. Definitely growing up. It's not, even now, if I can hit one driver good, I'm good. It's like, no, when I was playing, it needed to be like, hey, Steven, you need to hit 100 drivers and 99 of them need to look perfect.
Right.
And that's where I struggled.
Yeah. And, that I've said that to a lot of kids. I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's hard for a kid to realize that because there's a lot of like gratification that we struggle with in this day and age, right? Because everything lives in that thing. Right. And so because you can doesn't mean it's a habit, right? Like, yes, you can hit that 7-iron 180 yards. Does it mean you should hit your 7-iron 180 yards every time? Right. But I think that's a great nugget. And I think, that's something that a lot of kids should really take to heart. And speaking of the kids, you got something you're starting up now in Hendersonville, right? And up in north of town, and you're starting to help kids give back to the game a little bit on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So talk us about what you're doing back up in your hometown now.
Yeah. So I teamed up with Framework Athletics up in Hendersonville, and it's at the CrossFit Hendersonville. And so Ryan McDuffie is the owner of CrossFit, and Zach Duke started Framework Athletics. And so what we ended up doing, and they're geared a little bit more towards baseball. They've got a great facility up here, but we've also got room for a golf similar to what you have behind you.
Right.
And so we've got access to the TrackMan, we've got hitting net. And so what we created was a winter program for middle school and high schoolers nearby, and have them come in from December to March 31st and give them a place to swing. Because it's like last week we had 6 inches of snow on the ground. So what we do is it'll be an hour long, it'll be 30 minutes with me and 30 minutes with a physical therapist. And this is what I wish I had when I was in high school or middle school and high school, was someone to tell me, why am I limited this way? Or what can I get better at with my body? And so they'll spend 30 minutes, go through a workout together, and then I'll have them for 30 minutes too. So we do that, for an hour, Tuesday, Thursdays. One's a middle school group, one's a high school group. And it's been awesome. They like it. They're all getting better, which is good.
Yep. So,
it is awesome. I enjoy, like you said, giving back. It's something that I needed to do and wanted to do. Right. I feel like I can offer something in the golf world, and I hope all the kids like me. So it's been really good, and we look to grow that.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. I mean, I say this now, like I coach because I want to, right? There's nothing binding me to be a golf coach. If I didn't love what I did every day, I have enough context at this point. I could run away and do something else. Right. But I love waking up and watching a kid get some kind of gratification of doing something they've never done before. Right. Or achieving something they didn't think they could achieve or wanted to achieve. Right. And so now that you're on the other side of the equation, right, you go from player your whole career to now coaching. Right. The thing that I would find interesting is like, do you find yourself telling the kids things that you wish you would have heard when you were their age, right? Obviously you're providing an opportunity you wish you had, but are you saying and doing some of the things now that you wish you had in your ear when they were their age?
Yeah. There's a bunch. I go back to teaching them. I try and give what I would have learned back then. And that's what I do with them. And get them involved in that PT world, get them involved with, hey, a lot of the kids come in, I like to hit a drop. Well, you're swinging 7 degrees left with a shut club face. That's probably not going to promote, at least it'll promote a drop, but a drop is right at target.
Remember that curve conversation we had?
Yeah, exactly. So it's just getting them some structure, now, and getting to them at an early age to prepare them for, when the middle schoolers get to high schools and high schoolers go to college, there'll be some college players. So it's really good wide range of people from, a 30 handicap to kids that are shooting under par. So it's just impressive. And I like getting a hold of them now and teach them, then get to them when they're 20 years old. Like, oh, I want to play professional golf now. It's like, well, let's start now.
Yeah. Like, let's start a year ago.
Exactly.
Well, Stephen, again, I appreciate what you're doing up there north of town. And if I can ever be a help, holler at me. I'd love to help you out if there's anything I could do to be of assistance. But I appreciate you coming and sharing your story with us on the show. Obviously, you had a fantastic career between junior golf and your professional ranks, and you'll probably, once you get your amateur status back, I wouldn't be surprised to see you going out there and competing again, duking it out there a little bit.
I filed it for already. I got to wait till June of 23.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's funny how fast you guys file for that amateur status after you hang it up. I'm on you. I'm on you.
Yeah, the weekend I got to talk to the TGA, see if I can play a few events like amateur for reinstatement, see if they'll let me in.
Yeah, just lean on wit, just kind of throw an elbow in the wind. Well, thanks again, and I appreciate you sharing your insights, and thanks for hopping on the show and talking to us for an hour, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for having me.